Hey everybody, so I was looking through some of my old strategy guides, and I came across one that cracked me up. First of all, that this was a thing, and secondly that I'm not sure how this didn't get thrown away. So this is the game. This was if you can't see it, I don't know how close we're going to be able to get. There we go. Dungeons and Dragons. I had the Beholder. Now, we'll talk about this game in just a little bit, but obviously this was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons trying to get a decent version of Dungeons and Dragons onto console, which is a really tough thing to do. This is check this out. This is the strategy guide, and I remember, I don't know how I found it online. I don't think this was, well, first of all, I mean, Amazon was a thing when I was playing, possibly was a thing when I was playing this. I was trying to see if there was a date on here. As to when possibly this came out. I know I did not buy it new. I definitely bought it after it had been out, and it was one of those things that I was at a used game store, and I was looking for something new to play, and saw it and got it. But okay, so this is. If you think that this looks like a photocopy of the book, it's because that's what it is. And they did a good job of it. They actually they stapled the pages together. Everything's in the right order. They did a really good job on the copy. That's for sure. But I wish I remember exactly where I landed this thing. I'm sure it was just a frantic search online to try to figure out what in the world am I doing. But it's actually a pretty good guide. So there's a lot of information on the monsters here. These maps are the important thing, I would assume. That's one of the reasons I got it, was because of the maps. And so the maps have these numbered notations on them, and then you go and you look up the number on your particular level as to what you're going to find there and what to do. This game, this is a game that it was interesting for me because when I was young, I wasn't allowed to play Dungeons and Dragons, and I still haven't played a lot. I've played some, and I very much enjoyed it when I have. So I bought this. I was either late high school, maybe my last year in high school, or first year of college when I would have gotten this game, and it was one of my first real tastes of a Western RPG. So, one of the main distinctions between a JRPG, or Japanese role-playing game, and a Western RPG is, the Western RPGs focus more on character creation, on making your own, having your own reactions, taking your own path. So you'll have like often multiple responses that you can give, and they'll have different outcomes, different ways of approaching certain things. And the JRPG is more or less on a rail. You are playing a set character, not your own character. And so when you're playing like my first real big JRPG, which was Final Fantasy IV, you're playing Cecil, and Cecil, you're going through the plot that Cecil goes through, and the responses are the responses. You don't have a ton of choice in the matter, and so that's the difference. And I'm used to the JRPGs, which is, you grind your way through your enemies. That you aren't strong enough, you just keep leveling, and you figure out a way past it. In the Western RPG, there's a lot more strategy. It tends to be that the levels are not quite as important. They are still important, but they're not quite as important. You need to rely on your wit to get through a lot of stuff. And so when I first started this game, I didn't approach it properly, and I had the same problem with the next couple of Western RPGs that I did, which were the Black Gate, which was also on Super Nintendo, and also like Baldur's Gate, which the legit PC game, which I had of the three, Baldur's Gate I had the most fun with, but I still was having that mindset of just grind your way through the problem. And in this game, I took to it initially really well. We got some graph paper, and we started mapping out the dungeons and stuff. But I had that completionist mentality that just explore every nook and cranny, try get through it. And when you, like in Dungeons and Dragons, when you have rations and when you run out of rations, you don't have any more rations. Taking it slow is not always the best idea, but kind of in my mindset, it's like, well, I'll take it slow, I'll get some levels, and then I'll be strong for the end. And it didn't really work that way. I spent a long time on this game, and I'm trying to. I know I got to level 2, because I'll show you. So this section right here, I remember that very distinctly because it was tripping me out. Because if you walk here and you hit that, then it like transports you. I think, if I'm remembering right, it transports you here and reverses your view. But you don't, there's not really a way to know that. All right, so I don't want to say that there was no way through it. No indication. There might have been. It's been a long time since I played this game. But it confused me. And my map got really wonky because of that. And so I may have gotten stuck. I may have gotten stuck on level 2. There's a distinct possibility I got to level 3, but I know I did not get through the sewers. So you start with the sewers, and then you get to the dwarven ruins, and then over to the Drow area, and then you get to where the Beholder's lair, and so there's 12 levels. I know I got to level 2. I may have gotten to level 3, so I did not do well. I realized very quickly I was in over my head, and I got this. I still didn't actually beat the game, but it's one of those that I really should take a swipe at it again. I saw some speed runs of it, like the PC version. They're finishing at like 8 minutes, and the SNES record is like 11. And considering like the hour that I spent on level 1 and the hours I spent on level 2, I'm most impressed by that. But now that I've got more of an understanding of how to do Dungeons and Dragons, this might be something that I should go back to. So what's really good about it is the fact that you're character creating on an SNES, and you have a whole party, and you start with four characters. You can get a couple more if you have. I think you have to have a necromancer to resurrect skeletons or something. you're creating a whole party, and rolling stats and all of that, and to manage to do stuff like that on SNES is pretty impressive. I mean, that was the real problem with getting Dungeons and Dragons onto consoles, is that it was so big, and the consoles were, especially back then, were very limited on how much memory you had and how much you could do with them. But that was very cool. The graphics are very cool. It's like you are it's like a 3D maze, and which gets you all confused on Direction 2, but the graphics are very cool. The interface is very cool. The stuff that's bad about it is there's almost no plot. I mean, you go down in the sewer to destroy this beholder, that beholder right there, and that's what you do. And so it's just slogging through. There's no even any NPCs until I think level 4, and there's just not any plot to speak of, so I mean, I guess you have to sacrifice something if you're going to get all of this, all this gameplay on here, all the character creation and stuff, and that's the natural thing to get rid of. But I was used to a lot more plot in the gameplay, and so I was a bit disappointed in that. Not having been much of a tabletop RPGer at the time, the battle system kind of bothered me, and even now having some experience, it's either I was doing something wrong, or I believe that only because of the narrowness of the corridor, only the 2 people in front can actually attack, and the 2 people in back cannot without a ranged weapon, and so that makes things a little awkward, honestly. And I think about the role-playing games the tabletop role-playing games that I've played, and you have people bouncing in and out, which of course as an SNES we have to give some sort of allowance for the system itself, and so this seems to be what they could do with the system, but so. I overall, it's one I gave up on really soon in the game. I probably wouldn't give it up so soon today. Now that I'm more aware of stuff, there's some impressive stuff in it. I very much enjoyed it for several hours, so I don't feel like I didn't get my money's worth out of it or anything like that. It was quite a bit of fun. So, and this entertains me most of all. I do remember getting this in the mail, and I was not expecting a photocopy thing, but I was like, I was kind of annoyed at first, but then I was looking, I was like, hey, look, it's got maps, it's got charts. That's really what I'm looking for. So I guess it did a job. Somebody made some money online, just photocopying some book he had. So why not? But that's Eye of the Beholder for Super Nintendo. Appreciate y'all watching, and do hope you subscribe, and talk to you later.